On behalf of ET Government, the Economic Times, I welcome Mrs. Sonal Goyal, Special Resident Commissioner, Tripura Bhavan, New Delhi, as our esteemed guest for Chai Pe Charcha this week. It is indeed a great pleasure to meet you and have you on today's show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. It's my pleasure to be on your studio today.
Let me share with our viewers, Mrs. Sonal Goyal is a 2008 batch IS officer who is currently serving as the Special Resident Commissioner, Tripura Bhavan in New Delhi. She was selected in top 25 women transforming India by Niti Aayog, United Nations, and MyGov in September 2016. She has more than a decade's experience in public service as an IS officer. She has served two states, Tripura and Haryana, over a period of almost 13 years now. More recently, in February 2021, she took over as Special Resident Commissioner, Tripura Bhavan, New Delhi. Earlier, she was posted as CEO of Gurugram Metropolitan City Bus Limited and additional CEO, Gurugram Metropolitan Development Authority. She has also served as Commissioner, Municipal Corporation of Faridabad. She got All India 13th rank in UPSC exam. She has done BCom Honours from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi, and MA in Public Policy. She is a qualified company secretary as well as a lawyer. I once again welcome you to Chai Pe Charcha, Mrs. Sonal Goyal, and I also welcome our delegates and viewers.
Thank you so much.
As I begin the discussion with you, Mrs. Goyal, as we see the second wave of COVID pandemic has badly hit the country, all frontline workers, including doctors, paramedical staff, and policemen, are working 24/7 with the same dedication to save lives of people. We salute them and appreciate their contribution. Your opinion and suggestion and any appeal to the citizens of this country in these difficult times. Over to you.
Thank you. India and the world today, we all have been facing an unprecedented challenge in the form of COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic hit our lives in the year 2020, wherein we could face it with resilience. Unfortunately, 2021 again has posed this challenge again in the form of the COVID-19 second wave. When we see the work being done by the administration, the work being done by the entire medical fraternity, all the frontline COVID warriors, it has been a tough fight which we have all been facing together, and we have risen to the challenge. So my suggestion, or you can say the appeal to the citizens who are connected with us in the program today and who would be watching this program later on. So first and foremost, it is very much important to appreciate the role of each other. So as a human being, as part of the society, we all should recognize the contribution of each other, whether it is the medical fraternity, whether it is the police, whether it is administration or the sanitation workers, or for that matter, all the citizens, the NGOs, civil society organizations who are shouldering the responsibility, and we are putting up a tough fight against COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the second wave. Also, I would like to appeal that we all should not be acting as opportunistic. So what do I mean by that is that we saw in the recent times that there have been issues of hoarding and black marketing of being reported, not only of the medicines, but also of all kind of medical equipments which are there in our country. Also black marketing of other essential things. So my appeal is that we should not be doing that. It is also very important, and I appeal to all the citizens, is that we all have to follow the COVID-19 appropriate behavior. So wearing a mask, use of sanitizer, social distancing, avoiding going to a public place. In most of the states at present, we are under a lockdown. And if we are under a lockdown, all the restrictions which have been put in by various state governments and by the central government, those restrictions are for the betterment of us as a society. So rather than enforcement being done by the administration, it should be a kind of a self-discipline which citizens should be displaying. And I'm very happy to see that this time there has been so much of so much of acceptance by the people with respect to the lockdown. Last year, if we compare, there were, because I was last year working in Gurugram, so last year we could see some kind of violations being reported and some incidents wherein people were not following the lockdown restrictions. But this time, I think it is we as a society, we have accepted because situation was not very favorable and therefore the lockdown was announced. So my appeal is that be compassionate, be kind to each other, help out each other, do not hoard, follow the COVID-19 appropriate behavior, and also if you are eligible for getting vaccinated, please do and get your vaccination done. I think this is my appeal to the fellow citizens.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Goyal. Now, let's also get to know more about your educational background, your professional life. You completed your graduation from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi. You also completed your company secretary course in 2004 and studied law. You belong to a business family. So, I would like to know from you how and when your journey to become an IS officer actually started. Who inspired you the most for the civil services examination?
When I talk about myself, I come from a small town called Panipat in Haryana. And Panipat, or for that matter, many parts of our country, especially the northern India, we have a patriarchal dominated society. And I'm talking about way back in 2000 to 2003-4 when I was doing my graduation. I was doing my graduation from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and I was also doing my CS. My father is a chartered accountant, but otherwise my family is a middle class family based in Haryana, and they all are generally into business. So when I came across civil services, I read about it. I was in fact the first one to be even discussing about this in my family, and I somehow felt that it is a platform which will enable me to realize my own potential and to contribute towards nation building, to work for the society. With these ideas, when I discussed this with my parents, so there were a lot of apprehensions. So because firstly, it is a very tough exam, the examination, and you need a lot of dedication. Minimum 2 to 3 years are required to clear this examination, and then also selection is not sure shot. And if the selection is there, then which service you will get, it depends on your rank. And even after selection, which service you will get, and then after the service allocation, which cadre you will get. And after the cadre, how do you settle your married life? So all these apprehensions came to my father's mind especially. But then when I discussed with them again and again over a period of 6 months, then my father said, okay, if you want to do kijiye, but you should have a plan B in life. For example, if you are doing already a CS, so if you don't qualify civil services, then what will you do? And one important thing which my father had always said, that girls should be financially independent always. And therefore, I have an elder sister. She was at that time doing chartered accountancy. She was doing CA. So I thought of acting on my father's advice. I completed my graduation in 2003. I completed my CS course in 2004. And in 2004, I got myself enrolled in LLB law from Delhi University after clearing the entrance examination. And in the same year, I started my part-time job as a CS just because I wanted to gain some experience and also finance my own studies to an extent, if not fully. And I also started my preparation for civil services. So 2004 to 2007, these three things were parallel in my life. Preparation for civils was the priority. Appearing for law examination, attending the classes, and part-time job as a CS. I gave my first attempt in 2006. Unfortunately, I did not get an interview call. I wrote mains, and it was in 2007. I wrote the mains again, and our final result was announced in 2008. And by God's grace, I got selected with All India rank 13. And meanwhile, my LLB was also complete. So in that way, from 2004 to 2008, these three things were going on parallel in my life. But I was very much focused and determined that whatever effort I am doing as of now, it should be even more than my 100%, so that I should not be having any repentance that, oh, I did not give my best. And when you talked about like who inspired me for civil services. So frankly, Mr. Gupta, I would like to share that I think it was my own self-realization that civil services is the platform which would enable me to connect to the people, which will at a very young age give me an opportunity to work for the masses and kind of have some positive impact in the field, in the society, for the country. So it was a self-realization, as you say, the Maslow needs hierarchy, self-actualization. So for that, I kind of I thought about that. And yes, there is one personality who has always inspired me, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I have read his books. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, when I was doing my graduation, I was fortunate enough that he came to our college. I think I was in second year of my graduation. He came to our college and I was fortunate to attend his lecture, and his words left such a indelible impression on my mind. And then I started reading his books, and he said, dream, dream, and dream. So for me, it was the realization that I thought that I should be appearing. That is the thing which I have to do. And therefore, I was thankfully in the civil services. And now I use the acronym DREAM as for my own self, which I elaborate as diligence, resilience, energy, ambition, and motivation. I repeat, diligence, resilience, energy, ambition, motivation. This is DREAM for me.
And you are really a role model for many young girls and UPSC aspirants. So my next question to you, Mrs. Goyal, is what are your suggestions to UPSC aspirants or those who want to become an IS officer? Whether an aspirant needs coaching or can manage with self-studies too. What is your comment?
Civil services preparation is in itself quite a broad and elaborate topic, and Mr. Gupta, I have been taking some sessions separately on this, but yes, herein, since you have asked, I would mention just in brief, for any aspirant who is thinking about appearing for civil services, whether it is the UPSC All India Service Examination or the State Service Examination, first and foremost, I would like to request you is that please be clear in the mind that why do you want to be in civil service? What is the burning purpose which is driving you, which is motivating you to be in civil service? The reason is that this purpose only would be driving you when you are demotivated during your examination preparation time. So what I mean to say is that if you want to go in for respect, for the kind of charisma, for the kind of opportunity, for the kind of job diversity which the civil service offers, the thing should be clear in your mind that what is your motto, and that motto only would be driving you all throughout your preparation. Now, next thing is that when you are 100% sure that you are preparing for civil services, you should be going through the UPSC notification to see that as per your category, how many number of attempts and what is the age criteria applicable to you. So as you can plan that you will be giving how many attempts to have a rough idea, and what is your category wise eligibility and how many years are available to you for appearing for civil service examination. Now, when you see that and you're clear in your mind, then once you're starting preparation, you also should have a plan B in your mind. Friends, I am not here to demotivate you or to discourage you from appearing, but I'm only saying because of the reason that more than 10 lakh aspirants fill the form of prelims examination, and we all know that the selection is in few hundreds. So when the selection is in few hundreds, there is something about this examination that not everybody is able to crack, and youth is spending so much of the prime time in preparation. 2 to 3 years of their preparation they would put in 14-15 hours of study, so much of resources. Some people even shift their location to cater to a coaching institute, or there might be some other reasons also for shifting. So when you are investing so much of your energy, time and resources, it should not go in waste. That is my only point. Therefore, you should be clear in your mind that if you're not able to crack the civil service examination, it is not the end of the world. There are many other opportunities available. So which one is best suited to you, so that you can also do that if you're not able to clear. But that plan B should not be distracting you. What I mean to say is that it should not be distracting you कि नहीं हमारा तो चलो अगर सिविल्स नहीं हुआ तो हमारा वो तो है ही, हम वो कर लेंगे, हम पापा का बिजनेस संभालेंगे, या हम कोई कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट का ग्रुप बना के हम वो कर लेंगे. वो नहीं होना चाहिए माइंड में ये क्लियर होना चाहिए कि मुझे करना ही है, लेकिन अगर बाई चांस 1% को अगर नहीं होता है तो मैं ये कर सकता हूँ या मैं ये कर सकती हूँ. उससे थोड़ा सा आपका माइंड मेंटली बैलेंस रहेगा. एंड व्हेन यू आर स्टार्टिंग प्रिपरेशन तो पूरा एक स्ट्रैटेजी जो रहता है, देयर आर 3 स्टेजेस, प्रीलिम्स, मेंस एंड इंटरव्यू. For prelims, it is an objective type. For mains, it is a totally subjective type, which also includes essay writing, and interview is your personality test. If I talk about the 12-month strategy, so I always tell the aspirants that, for example, if you have to appear for civil service examination next year in June, prelims, and you have complete 1 year with you, initially 5 to 6 months minimum should be in completing your syllabus from the point of view of both prelims and mains. By that, I mean that there are few topics which are common, especially in the general studies. You should cover them. You should also focus on your mains, in the sense, the optional subject. You should develop a basic idea, and also you should try to practice your answer writing and notes making. Now, during this time, also focus on your general studies, including the current affairs, reading magazines, newspapers, all those things should be there. And after this, when you are nearing your prelims examination, devote 1.5 to 2 months at least fully and solely to the prelims preparation. So when you are appearing for prelims, so if it is in June, then maybe April onwards or March and onwards, you should start only and only prelims, because it's an extensive objective type of a question. It also includes the mental aptitude in the form of CSAT. And then after that, you again start preparing for mains once you are through with the prelims. And mains mein, when you are near to your mains examination, very important is answer writing. Very important is to have repeated revision. And then, of course, you appear for the interview examination. And one question you asked is whether to join any coaching institute or not. So friends, my advice here is that every aspirant has a different way of studying. So for example, I was not very much comfortable in having coaching, but still, because some subjects were new to me, especially in the general studies, so I took some coaching part wise, but it was not a complete package which I took. So it depends on your approach. It also depends on your location, because not every location would have a good coaching institute. So it should not be happening that you are going to a coaching institute which is not good. Ultimately, you are wasting your time and you are wasting your money. So try and evaluate this, and also it is important to see that it's of a good quality. Now, of course, we have been, from last 1 year, we have been in some kind of issues because of the COVID-19. Even coachings are being delivered online. So if you can get access to an online coaching material, or for that matter, any group discussions are there, you can join them. They would be very helpful, I think. And ultimately, it is the self-study or the self-preparation, because as I mentioned that for selection, the maximum weightage is with the mains examination. And mains is purely based on your answer writing. So that makes it clear that for your final selection, mains is the most important. And in that, as much as you practice and as much you are able to reproduce what you know, that only would help you in getting a selection in civil service examination.
Thank you for explaining this to the viewers and UPSC aspirants. One question on the behavior of civil servants. Mrs. Goyal, you must have recently seen the viral videos on internet. How do you find young colleagues coming into the public service? Are they passionate about the public service, or they are influenced by some powers and perks?
Mr. Gupta, I would say it like this, that the service per se, whether it or the civil services, and if for that matter, all India civil services, IAS, IPS, IFS, the forest service, they have always carried that factor of charisma. They have always carried that respect in the society. And as I say that with all kind of power or influence, it comes with a parallel responsibility. So in whatever positions or situations we are working, we have innumerous responsibilities associated with us. When we are talking about the younger colleagues coming to the service, so it is my like 13th year of service, and I was earlier in the private sector. So I have seen, especially in the young batches, very energetic, dynamic, intelligent, bright officers coming up from various backgrounds. They are IITians, they have done MBAs from IIMs, they are doctors, even doctors of AIMS are entering into civil services. So what I mean to say is that the young minds have brilliant ideas, innovations, energy, enthusiasm, zeal. Somehow, I think there is a balance which needs to be maintained. I, as a civil servant, I have always felt that we are working in a dynamic paraphernalia. So that dynamic paraphernalia will consist of the political bosses, it will consist of media, it will consist of judiciary, it will consist of all NGO, civil society organizations, all stakeholders groups in that area where you are posted, and of course citizens at large. So the act of balance making is very important when we are talking about civil services and when we are talking about public service delivery. So the young officers are having, of course, that zeal and enthusiasm and that motivation to work. But if somewhere their conduct is going little bit wrong or the conduct needs to be improved, then it is also a reflection to the society, and it is also a reflection to the steel framework which we are called in. So what I want to say is that there are positives and negatives of everything. There are good officers, there are officers who are not that 100% upright. So such kind of people are there in all kind of service, all kind of careers, all kind of profession. But that one particular individual or that one particular officer does not define the service per se. If we see the COVID-19 pandemic situation, you must have seen all across the country, officers, whether they are in the administration, police, revenue service, customs excise, railway traffic, postal department, they are working day and night for handling the situation. And I'm sure that people in the country must be realizing their efforts. And you see, every day we are seeing young officers even losing lives. Yesterday, only one 2014 batch IRS officer who was deputy commissioner in Gurugram, he had died due to COVID. I have personally known his family, and he was in hospital for 25 days, and unfortunately he survived only by his wife. So at a very young age, even officers are losing lives. So we as a society have to appreciate that if there is such kind of a behavior by the officer, there must also be a corrective action by the society. For that matter, if there are any rules which are framed by the government, which are there for people to follow, these rules should be followed by them, and they should not be needing any enforcement. In a democracy, we only need enforcement for the reason that if people are not bounding by law, if people are not following by law, then only we should be using force. Otherwise, nobody likes to use force. I have been in field for many years. We never want that police should be visiting anybody's house or they should be using any physically any force. We never like that. So my point is that, yes, of course, if they're having such incidents, they are not welcome. We as officers also need to reflect how we are conducting ourselves, and also the society needs to reflect why it happened. I think it's a mutual kind of a situation which we all need to improve, and the paraphernalia in which we are all working, situation is not very favorable for officers also. We all should appreciate.
And that depends from person to person. Mrs.
Yes.
Sir, you have spent more than a decade in public service. You have served two states, Tripura and Haryana, over a period of almost 13 years now. How has been your overall professional experience, and any interesting instance that you want to share as a part of your past assignments?
In fact, it has been now more than a decade, as you have mentioned. So there have been many instances. I have worked in Tripura for more than 7 years in my initial stint. After that, I came to Government of Haryana for 4 years. And then I am now back again with Government of Tripura. In my initial days of my posting in subdivision in Tripura. The subdivision is called as Ambasa, which is the headquarters subdivision of Dhalai district. There were few hamlets or what we call as village committees which were unconnected to an extent. So in my subdivision also there were around 7 village committees. There were some issues like this. So because of this connectivity issue, there were some hindrances in making the administrative services reach out to the people at large. So there was one village committee called Maldapara. Maldapara, may we started moving. I went with my team on the first occasion. I could sense out that it's like 10 kilometers of distance, which we have to traverse on the foot. So, but we did that, and we also took support of the local PSF, and then we started mobilizing the local resources. So we saw that school was not running properly, Anganwadi center, the primary health center, because it was a distant location. So it was difficult for the government functionaries to travel every day from the subdivisional headquarters. So we took the help of BSF and we made arrangements that all these minimum government employees would be staying there from at least 5 days a week there in their establishment, and they would be traveling back to their homes on weekend. By this, we could actually make the school, the primary health center, the Anganwadi center, basic services available. And this kind of experiment is always very close to my heart, because the tribal people who were there in that para, even though they were minuscule in number, not more than 200, but still they were not willing to come to the mainland, and they had their forest pattas in those areas. And even though the land was given to them by the state in the mainland, but they still were attached to their roots. So this kind of 7 village committees, we could help the people out there. So this incident is very close to my heart. As an administrator, I always remember those. Whenever I see those pictures of walking down through charas and nalas and walking on the bamboo bridges, I still get nostalgic. And of course, all throughout my career in Tripura, on my service in Tripura, I have got many such instances. I have tried to work for women welfare. When I was in Ambasa, we were first to form an all-women polling station way back in 2010. When I was DM Gomti district, we took an initiative, Nandini, which was for promoting the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan initiatives in the district, and we got immense amount of support from the public at large. When I came to Haryana, I was posted in Faridabad. We took many initiatives under the Swachh Faridabad Abhiyan. So the Faridabad became the first city to be selected under the Smart Cities Mission of Ministry of Urban Development, Government of India in 2017. And then after that, I was posted in Jhajjar. In Jhajjar, we took many initiatives for women empowerment, because as I mentioned in the beginning, in Haryana, particularly in few of the districts, Jhajjar, Rohtak, Sonipat, and of course Panipat, from wherein the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2015. This patriarchal mindset is even quite dominant there. So we need to promote the women and girls' welfare. We took many initiatives under the campaign of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. We started a program for promoting the menstrual hygiene of girl students, adolescent girl students in the schools. I am mentioning this because today we are also observing the menstrual hygiene day. So for that, for promoting the menstrual hygiene, we took an initiative, Umang Ek Pehal. We took initiatives for bringing women at the forefront, empowering them financially. So all these have been very close to my heart. And of course, my last posting in Haryana was in Gurugram, wherein most of my time was during the COVID-19 pandemic. There also we worked as a team to address the demands of the situation. So my work experience has been quite diverse. And I've actually learned a lot, and I think my forte has been that I have tried to mobilize the community, tried to mobilize the people, build my teams, instill confidence in them, and then deliver. And it is also very important to ensure that the initiatives whichever you are taking, they are sustainable even when you are transferred. That is very important when we are working in government.
Thank you, and very nice initiatives of yours. Before I jump into more initiatives of Faridabad and Gurugram, one more important thing that you highlighted is women empowerment. And I would like to ask you, women in India are emerging in all sectors, including politics, business, medicine, sports, agriculture, etc., every field. But India's ranking in the Global Gender Gap Report commissioned by the World Economic Forum declined from 108 in 2018 to 112 in 2020. So, what do you feel? What needs to be done on the gender equality front?
When we are talking about gender equality, I think it is very important to understand the dynamics or the reason for this. So the reason is not the today's situation. The reason dates back to our history. It dates back to the way our society, especially in our country, has evolved. We have seen the pratha, sati pratha. We have seen dowry being much prevalent. We have seen that there was female feticide. Then we saw the advent of social reformers like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar ji, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. We had Swami Vivekananda ji. All those people spoke so much vocally about women rights, abolition of Sati Pratha, Dowry Prohibition Act enactment, and of course Mahatma Gandhi ji. So all throughout these years, there has been a transition in the way women has been seen in the society. And that realization is now coming very positively. If we are seeing in our own country, if we see the percentage of female who are there even in the bureaucracy, wherein it was hardly a single officer immediately after independence, we have now approximately 15 to 20% of the lady officers in all kind of civil services. The percentage may be lower in police or the armed services, but it is much more in the other services, in the state service also. So this kind of an evolution, this kind of a progression is coming in our society, but lot more needs to be done if we are talking about the gender parity. So it should come from the school itself. It should come from the education time, that when a child is going to a school, he or should be given a equal access. In rural areas we see, I have also seen such examples in field, that if a family has 3 kids and they don't have a very high income, so if they have 1 son and 2 daughters, they would prefer sending son to a private school and sending the girls to a government school. And this is not unrealistic, I am telling. And what's the reason for that? Kind of apprehension what they have in their mind is that they are sending son to a private school because they feel that he would be doing some higher education, he would become the bread earner of the family. And for a female, for a girl, it is thought that let her do her school or maybe maximum graduation, then she has to get married. So this kind of a mindset is not allowing us to give equal access to opportunities. So my request to all the viewers out here is that male or a female need to be treated equally in the society. If you talk about India, whether it is sports, whether it is education, science and technology, space, whether it is medical profession, any profession, females are, if given a chance, females are outshining the boys. You see any CBSE or even ICSE board results, they are outshining. So what is requirement is that you need to give that confidence, you need to give that opportunity to a girl to realize her dream, and sometimes she also needs that confidence. She may have so many dreams, but there are not enough guardians or supporters available to to enlighten her or to make her understand that how she will realize her potential. So that is the responsibility of the teachers, parents, guardian, to educate her, to guide her, to give her opportunity. And I would like to say that financial independence of a woman is very important. If you're talking about empowerment, a woman is not empowered or a woman is not independent unless and until she is financially independent. For that matter, higher education or vocational education, or even government has many programs in form of rural self-help groups, rural livelihood missions. Even in urban areas, we have such initiatives. And now even government is encouraging the innovations and startup under various missions. So we all need to promote that. And gender parity is the most imperative thing in our society. Whether it is politics, education, we all should be supporting, and we all should be encouraging more and more women to come forth.
And that is why I feel the government of India is also laying a lot of emphasis on Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao kind of schemes. Mrs.
Yes.
Goyal, you were part of top 25 women transforming India by Niti Aayog, and also part of Web Wonder Woman by WCD Ministry and Twitter India. What do these recognitions mean to you? Please share some of the experiences.
So the first recognition which you mentioned was for my work when I was posted in Tripura as DM and collector. The Women Transforming India, that was the first edition by Niti Aayog and MyGov India. And I was the only officer who was nominated. There was a procedure in which voting was also there. So I was shortlisted in that. And the Web Wonder Woman was in 2019. It was an initiative of Twitter India and Ministry of WCD, Government of India, to recognize 30 such women who are using social media, who are using the power of social media to influence society for some better things. When I'm talking, when I'm seeing these kind of recognitions, so I feel that it is my responsibility that when I'm working, the initiatives are sustainable. Whether it is for women empowerment, whether it is for bringing gender parity, whether it is for promoting education, whether it is for rural livelihood, whether it is under Swachh Bharat mission, or for that matter, empowering the youth, encouraging the sports in the district. So it is much more important that I should ensure that the initiatives are sustainable even when I move out. And it is also very important to ensure that the co-ownership or the responsibility is being taken by the team. So my team, which is working in the field, they are taking the responsibility, and we are able to connect to the public. It is important to connect to the society, people in which we are working, to that subdivision or to that district, or for that matter to that city. It is very important to have that community participation, community mobilization, and of course, your team should take the responsibility. So all these recognitions make me happy, but it also gives me a sense of responsibility that we should keep on doing good work. We should all keep on doing some positive work for the people at large, and let these initiatives be sustainable whenever we are moving after transfer from this place.
Thank you. Uh, Madam, in your previous assignments, whether in Gurugram or Faridabad, you directly dealt with public. So, as you worked in the development authorities and municipal corporations, smart cities. So, would you like to share any of the assignment which you felt was most difficult, and how did you deal with that situation? How did you keep yourself calm, composed, and focused?
When you're talking about city governance, basically when you talk about Faridabad or Gurugram, both are city and they are metropolitan cities of Haryana, biggest, most metropolitan cities of Haryana, and having a dynamic population in the sense that there are some people who are permanently residing there, and then there are some people who are daily commuting on a daily basis for their work. Especially in Gurugram, you have so many people working in the private sector, working in the cyber area. Even people are working in multinationals who are from abroad and there for some time. So when you're talking about the challenges in city, they are quite diverse and quite varied as compared to a rural area. And citizens in urban areas, I would say, are much more informed, and they are, I think, to an extent impatient in the sense that everything is urgent here. Everything is urgent. You have a very vibrant social media. People can tag you and people can give the complaint on Twitter. All those things happen. In last year, when you mentioned about Gurugram, I would like to highlight here that maximum time of my posting was during the COVID-19 pandemic. I was CEO of the city bus service, and I was also having the charge of additional CEO GMDA. In GMDA, we took lot of initiatives because Gurugram we had diverse population, and we had multiple agencies like district administration, GMDA, MCG, HSVP, of course the police department being a commissionerate system, and various other departments like health, environment, forest, etc. We had under Smart Cities Mission under GMDA, we created an integrated command and control center. So that integrated command and control center was already there under the Smart Cities Mission, which had 300 cameras across the city. We created into an ICCC for monitoring of the lockdown purpose. A police team was deployed there 24/7 for having the surveillance of the lockdown rules. And also, if any issue was reported, that information was directly passed on to the administration for taking action. Also, the data which was coming, it was being used by the other departments, agencies, like the subdivisional officers, like the health department, like the environment department. So this was actually designated as a COVID-19 war room during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm happy to share that it is still working. Recently, Honorable Chief Minister Haryana, he had visited that, and he appreciated, and this kind of initiative has been very much fruitful, especially in context of bigger cities. And in Gurugram only, GMDA had the apps which were giving the real-time information. Kovhara, then we have a GMDA app which had all the live information about the beds availability, about the other medical facilities available in various hospitals across the city. And then this app was then integrated with the entire data of the state of Haryana. So entire data of state of Haryana was then available on this. So all these initiatives were by GMDA. In GMCBL city bus service, I would like to mention we took 3-4 unique kind of initiatives. Since our buses were standing in our bus stands, in our terminals because of the lockdown, so we had a fleet of around 160 buses standing. So we thought to utilize those buses, and we started using them as mobile grocery shops. So we tied up with the MCG and the district food and civil supplies officers, and based on the request of the RWS which they were sending to MCG, we were sending the daily ration items of the grocery items to all those RWS societies. So the GMCBL buses did that job very nicely, and it was appreciated across the city, across the state. Also, we used our buses for transportation of patients in quarantine who were detected COVID-19. For transportation of the medical teams, we also developed the online testing, the mobile testing facility in one of the bus. We tied up with one of the labs, and there was one bus which was converted to a mobile testing facility. So all these kind of initiatives were taken as a team, and we could face the situation. Of course, public support was immense in Gurugram. There were many NGOs, civil society organizations, citizens at large, who helped administration in serving meal to the migrant laborers, in serving food to the people who were there living in slums, the daily wage workers. All of the public spirited citizens came forth and they shouldered the responsibility along with the administration.
Thank you. Let me also ask you, since you are quite active on social media and a lot of fan following you have, you keep posting videos of fitness around the UPSC preparations and many other contemporary topics. Do you feel the information interface has become very fast these days? And how do you compare the current technology-led era and the less technology era?
I would like to put it like this, that social media is a double-edged sword. it has many positives. In a sense, if I talk about the administration, being part of administration, it enables us to disseminate information in time. If there is any restriction, any rule being framed, I can immediately share it in public domain. It is helping me in crisis communication, especially you saw in recent cyclone Gas and cyclone Taute. So we were sharing in the concerned state departments were sharing information. Even NDRF keeps posting. So it helps in crisis communication. It helps in communicating the people about the government policies program. It provides them educational content, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. You see, uh, Arogya Setu app was developed by the government last year. We have online vaccination app is there, so you can book a slot online and then you go in for your vaccination. You can also there was like I told about GMDA, they developed an app Kovhara. Similar apps were developed all across the cities and all across the states. So there have been telemedication has been done, especially during COVID-19. And during COVID-19, I would say that these online, because everything was turning from physical to digital. We are turning to digital platforms of education, even for school students. And for such kind of sessions, like I'm interacting with you on this kind of platform, this generally used to happen earlier physically. Now we are having online sessions, webinars, online conferences, and we are connecting to people all across the country. Anybody can watch it. Whoever is watching us live, anybody can see it. And after that also it would be in a public domain, it would be posted, the link would be posted, anybody can watch it. So that kind of access of information has become very wide. So all these are positives. But what are the things which we need to take care of is that it has a fallout of acting as a hate spreader. If there is any such instance or if any such deliberate attempt, then social media can actually spread the hate content very rapidly as compared to a normal platform or like a print media. So we need to be very cautious about that. We should not be a part of spreading any lies, spreading any hate. Also, it is also important to ensure that you are not spreading any fake messages. So fake news, fake messages, you should not be a part of forwarding it. So whenever you are posting anything, it is also important to verify, check the contents. And if you are satisfied that, yes, these contents are fine, then only you should be posting them. So all these things, social media is a very powerful tool these days, but yes, it needs to be used with restraint. It needs to be used with your own responsibility, because it should be used for positive or optimism, to share motivational thoughts, to share inspiring thoughts, to make people understand that life has so many aspects to it. But you should not be acting as a person who is harming anybody else in any form. Yes.
Right. We should be very vigilant and very cautious while we are posting some content on social media. You have a long and big kitty of awards and accolades. As CEO of Agartala Municipal Council, you received Best BSUP City Award in 2012 from MOUD, Government of India. You have also received Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Innovation in Governance Awards in 2019 from Vice Chairman Niti Aayog at the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Summit in February 2019. Besides this, you have also achieved many awards. Would you like to share any close to heart accomplishment that you want to share in last 13 years of your service? Any wow moment that you will always cherish?
Mr. Gupta, the most special moment which I still remember is actually the selection day. So when I was selected in civil services, the 16th May 2008, that day is still special to me. I remember I was in my home. It was a late afternoon or an early evening time, 3 or 4 p.m. and I was in my room, and my friend called me that उस टाइम में तो क्योंकि ये था नहीं हमारे पास, मोबाइल से बहुत कम थे. I was sharing my phone with my sister. So he called at my landline phone, and fortunately my both parents were there in home, and उन्होंने बोला कि तेरा रिजल्ट आ गया है and you are all India rank 13. So I could not actually believe. I had thought that I would be selected this time because I could assess that my preparation in mains was much better as compared to the first attempt. तो मुझे ये विश्वास था कि सिलेक्शन जरूर होगा, लेकिन इतना हाई रैंक आएगा ये मुझे नहीं विश्वास था, because somehow. So when I heard that, I could not believe. So then I waited for my computer to have internet, and then I confirmed it on the UPSC website, कंप्यूटर पे, डेस्कटॉप पे. और जब मैंने अपना नाम देखा तब मुझे विश्वास आया. एंड that moment still I remember, my parents were there, and that joy, that you swell with joy as well as you cry. So that is the wow moment I still remember. And of course, during your service, you have so many emotional moments when you feel that you have been able to help out people. आपने कुछ किसी के लिए आप कर पाए, बहुत अच्छा लगता है, और वो लोग भी आपको याद रखते हैं और आपको भी उनकी याद आती है. And as a mother, there are two special occasions which I always remember. So when my two kids were born, my daughter was born on 9th of April 2013, and my son on 22nd March 2019. Both those dates are very special to me. So I will never forget. Yes.
Thank you for sharing this. And any moment when your parents said, "Well done, Sabash beta, we are proud of you." You remember?
Yes, the same day it is when my parents were there when my result was announced. Same day, that is the day when they had said. In fact, my parents had always encouraged me. Even I was in school, from class 8 to 12th, I was generally in top 3. So my parents always encouraged me, and that was the reason I would like to mention here in that they had confidence in us, me and my sister. Therefore, they allowed me to pursue my dream, despite all kind of what should I say, ताने from the society, from my relatives कि आप लड़कियों को इतना पढ़ा के क्या कर लोगे. मेरे फादर को बोलती थी, तो इनकी ग्रेजुएशन हो गई, आप शादी कर दीजिए, लेट देम सेटल इन देयर फैमिली लाइफ. तो माय फादर यूज्ड टू से कि बेटियों को जितना पढ़ना है मैं उतना ज़रूर पढ़ाऊंगा. एजुकेशन एक ऐसा गिफ्ट है जो हमें सबको देना चाहिए. उसके आगे इनका भाग्य है और इनकी इच्छा है इनको उस एजुकेशन से क्या करना है. तो ये जो मेरे फादर का, मेरे पेरेंट्स का हमेशा से विश्वास रहा और जो आज भी है, आई थिंक यही हमें ड्राइव करता रहता है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स आई वुड लाइक टू मेंशन दैट आई हैव गॉट अ वेरी सपोर्टिव हस्बैंड, जिन्होंने, जो मैंने आपको बताया कि जिन्होंने मुझे रिजल्ट बताया था, अनाउंस किया था, एक्चुअली ही इज माय हस्बैंड नाउ. तो जिन्होंने मुझे सिविल सर्विसेज के दिन रिजल्ट बताया था. तो दिस हैज बीन माय जर्नी. आई मीन आई हैव गॉट वेरी स्पेशल पीपल इन माय लाइफ जिन्होंने हमेशा से मेरा साथ हर कदम पे दिया है.
Mrs. Sonal Goyal, you are, apart from a civil servant, also a mother, a wife, a daughter. So who is more strict? An IS officer, a mother, a wife, or a daughter? Would you like to share something on these lines?
So for that matter, I am strict on all the roles, and I am what should I say? I'm as soft as I can be on all the rules. Even as an administrator, I sometimes forget that I am an officer, which is, I think, always good. You should not be always remembering that you are an officer. Sometimes you should be natural, be just an individual. So मैं हर रोल में स्ट्रिक्ट भी हूँ. हर रोल में जहाँ मुझे बच्चों को डांटना है मैं डांटूंगी भी, जहाँ मुझे अपने पेरेंट्स से भी लड़ाई करनी है वहाँ मैं करती भी हूँ, और जहाँ मुझे अपनापन चाहिए और देना है वहाँ मैं देने की भी कोशिश करती हूँ. आई थिंक दिस इज मी.
We are almost at the end of the show. So before we wrap up the today's episode, I would like to ask you, you have been appointed as the honorary advisor at BRICS CCI Young Leaders Forum for the session 2020-2023.
Right.
How do you feel a youth of a country can contribute towards nation development? Any message for the younger populace of our country?
India is blessed to have a very dynamic young population. We are the youngest country in the world, by meaning that demographically the age between the age group of 15 to 45, we have highest number of people who are in our country. Youth in our country have been leading us in many ways. If you see recent COVID-19 pandemic, the students in the college, the students in IIT, they have come up with so many innovations. They have developed low-cost mechanical ventilators. They have developed intubation machines. They have developed mask vending machines. So there is immense potential amongst the youth of our country. So I would like to request you is that wherever it is possible, in whatever career profession you choose, try and contribute towards nation building through any form you can. You can shoulder the responsibility of program implementation, for example, Swachh Bharat Mission, Digital India, for example, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan. For example, during COVID-19 pandemic, you all should keep on doing that. Also, try and promote and contribute towards the sustainable development goals. The United Nations has given the 17 sustainable goals to all the UN nations. India is, of course, a partner to that. So that 2030 agenda needs to be realized, and it is talking about gender empowerment, it is talking about reducing inequality, it is talking about saving environment, it is talking about clean rivers, clean water bodies. So try and contribute towards all these issues, and there are n number of opportunities, and also do not always be dependent on others. If you can be employment generators and nothing like that. We are all seeking service. Like I am also a civil servant, so I am basically doing a job. I am not into any employment creation directly. So if you can be an entrepreneur, if you can be employment generator, try and do that. And government is also promoting the entrepreneurs under various missions, startup mission, Atal Innovation Mission. So you can try and see make in India. You can try, especially under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which Honorable Prime Minister Sir had launched last year in May 2020. So if you can be part of any such initiatives, please try and do. And wherever you are, it is very important for the youth to stay healthy physically and mentally, to keep contributing to nation. And it is very important to respect people around you, respect elders, respect women, and keep spreading optimism. I think this is my message to the youth of the country.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and message to the youth. It was really a great interaction with you, Mrs. Sonal Goyal. Our sincere thanks to you for accepting our invitation.
Last prose in Hindi, I would like to just mention here, जो मेरे हमेशा ज़हन में रहता है, कि तुम समय की रेत पर, सबने सुना भी होगा आई थिंक, काफी इट्स वेरी पॉपुलर. तुम समय की रेत पर छोड़ते चलो निशान, देखती तुम्हें जमीन, देखता है आसमान. तो आप जहां भी चल रहे हैं उस पे अपने लीव योर मार्क्स wherever you are walking, whichever journey you are following. Somebody on the earth is observing you, somebody in the sky is also watching you. Give your best, do your best.
Thank you. On this positive note, I would like to say our sincere thanks to you for accepting our invitation. And
जो भी, sorry to just to interrupt you again, जो भी viewers आज हमारे साथ इस सेशन में जुड़े या जो बाद में भी आएंगे, those who will be watching it, my best wishes to all of you. Whatever are your dreams, have faith in your own capability, give your 100%, be focused, be determined, and nothing can deter you from achieving what you want. I have always believed sooner or later you will get it in some form or the other. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.